What's up guys, Lost here. So in the last episode I said that this one would be all about attacking and combat and stuff like that. However, as soon as I started trying to do that, I realised that there was some prep work that we needed to do first. So we've got Supergirl here, and we've given her stats and stuff when we're making them, obviously displaying the stats on the screen. We've created hex, an attack hex and stuff like that, and I realised we had to do this before we can even start attacking. So yeah, hope you enjoy the video guys, and let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to have to create parent enemy. And similar to the way that the parent player is obviously the parent of its children, the actual objects, we're going to do the same thing but for the enemy characters. So what we need to do is let's just duplicate the Green Lantern here and place it above parent enemy. And let's just go ahead and replace it here with parent enemy, like that. We're going to call this one object Super... Is it Superwoman or Supergirl? I always forget. What do we call it in the sprites? Supergirl. Okay. Right, let's go object Supergirl, and we'll just link the sprite there as well. So in parent enemy's create event, let's just go with technical vars, and we'll just go with depth equals -y, and we'll also go with float equals 0, though we're not going to use this for now. Now in Supergirl, let's have a look. Let's just change the name, give her some better stats. She probably needs an attack of like 40 something, a defense of like 60. So I've just realised as well, actually, in the parent enemy, they're going to need an image X scale of -1, and that's because they need to be facing the opposite way, right? They need to be facing towards the left rather than the right, so because they obviously need to start at the opposite end of the room. So let's go with that. Now let's create object Supergirl, and she can be our like test dummy for a little bit. So let's create her at the opposite end of the room. So I don't know, let's just copy Green Lantern and Supergirl, and I believe this should work if we go room width -38, because in theory this is just the opposite to this. Let's see if it worked. Alright, that's smashing. As you can see, she's been created and she's just at the opposite end of the room. So there's going to have to be a few adjustments now, really. So as you can see, we can move on top of this person, which is not what we want. So if you remember in the script where we create the move squares and stuff like that, we're also going to have to add an if statement there to make sure that it destroys the move square over any enemy as well. So let's do that now. Okay, so in script XMove, we just need to copy this. We need a new for statement. But first, let's do this, a for loop. So let's go with, I don't know, maybe enemy num, and this is obviously going to be parent enemy. And then underneath this, we're just going to copy and paste it. Obviously, change this to enemy num. We'll change var char ID to var enemy ID, and here we're just going to specify parent enemy, and then obviously just change this to enemy ID and that to enemy ID, and that should then just work. We'll test it. So if you remember what's happening here, first of all we're going to find how many instances of parent enemy exist in the room, and we'll store that in the temporary variable enemy num. And then we've got a for statement. So I is going to start at 0, and while I is less than enemy num, which in our case is just 1, we'll add 1 to I. Okay? And then while this is below enemy num, it will do everything in the code block. Okay, so in theory, right now this should just happen once. And then it gets the immediate enemy ID here of position I, so it's looking for parent enemy at position I, which is just going to be 0 and 1, obviously, because of this. and then we just say if. Now remember, currently we're controlling object hex move, all of the hexes in the room, and then we're saying if the x of the hex is the enemy id.x and the y of the hex is the enemy id.y, then we'll destroy the hex. Okay, simple as that. So let's see if it worked. Okay, and there we go. So what I think I might do actually is make a new hex and make it red, so that when we are next to an enemy like this, instead of deleting the hex, it will just turn it to what we'll call an attack hex. Okay, so I'm just going to go make that now in Photoshop, and I'll be back in 1 moment. Okay, so after going in Photoshop, I realised what I should have just done was duplicating this. Instead we're just going to call it SPR hex attack, and we'll just edit this image, and we will just make it like red or something. You can make it whatever you want, but I'm going to make this red. So now we need a new object, and we'll call this object hex attack, and let's just put that there. And we will obviously just link it to the sprite. Does this have a create event? Check if legal. I don't know how relevant this is going to be. In fact, no, we don't need to do that in the attack one. Okay. So if we go to object hex destroy, let's also in here say with object hex attack, and then we will just destroy that as well, because these are only going to be around when the hex moves out anywhere, so we'll just need to make sure we destroy that. So if we now go to hex move again, right, let's have a look at this. So what we need to do here on the enemy is, first of all, let's say instance create layer x and y on the instances layer, and we'll create the object hex attack, and then we'll destroy it. So what's happening is when the hex move is on an enemy's x and y, so an enemy's position, it's first going to destroy. It's first going to create an object hex attack at the same position, and then it's just going to destroy itself, and it'll just leave behind the hex attack. So let's just see if that worked. And it probably would have been beneficial if I'd have moved Supergirl a bit closer to everyone, but let's see if it worked. It should have done. Yeah, there we go. And it'll just destroy it. So if I click and then... Okay. So we have a hex attack. So next up, I feel like we need to just sort out Supergirl's shadow and health bar, and we'll get drawing hair stats at the bottom as well, and then we'll get into attacking. So first of all, if we're going to parent player, let's first just grab this, because this is the shadow. I'm not going to explain the shadow again. And we're just going to pop it in here, like that. Alright, so something else actually, just before we carry on, is I've realised that when we draw the health bar, what I would like to do is, where on the X positions, I just want to times it by the image X scale. And what will happen is, when we then turn the image around and like move the opposite direction, the health bar won't look as weird and it'll just stay in the correct position. So let's just copy the health bar as well, like we just said, and we'll pop that in parent enemy at the bottom. And what I'm going to do with this actually is I'm just going to put that on 2 lines because it's starting to annoy me a little bit. Okay. So there we go. And here, let's just go with draw self for now, like that. Let's just see how that sort of comes together. Oh, actually, something else I would like to do is I want to change this from sea green to sea red. Alright, there we go. That's pretty good. That seems to work nicely. Now what I want to do is I want to, when we place the mouse over here, I want it to sort of have an outline like this, but we'll make it a red outline. and I want her stats to come up at the bottom here. I also want to be able to select her so that her stats sort of stay there, so we can then compare them with our characters, you know? So yeah, let's do that now. Alright then, so if we go to object control, we need 2 more variables in here. And now I'm just going to add a comment here that's going to say players 10 or player 10 vars. And down here we'll just have AI 10 vars. Just because we're going to have to distinguish a couple of things here, because we need to have P enemy hover is going to equal no one, and also P enemy selected is no one. Now the reason I'm adding P there is because I want enemy selected and enemy hover to be on the AI turn. And we need them to be different variables, because these are going to be, on the play turn when we select them and hover them, we want to be using these 2 here. So yeah, okay, let's do that now then. So if we go to parent player, actually we can probably just, if we copy this, go to parent enemy, and let's paste that there, and we'll just go with P enemy selected, and we'll go with P enemy hover. And now back to parent player, we can then copy and paste these if statements right here, and then we're going to have to code some stuff to make this work, aren't we? So let's have a look. So we've got a player 10. First of all, let's just make this bigger. Right. So first things first then. Let's do this. So let's copy this. And we'll go with parent enemy. And we'll go script get top hovered, and we'll just go enemy. Like that. So P enemy hover equals no one. And now we need to create this script. So we'll just dupe the one we're doing and rename it enemy at the end. Okay. And then all that needs to change is, I guess this has to be parent enemy actually. This has to change as well actually. We're going to say E parent enemy. So under mouse hover E for enemy. Same there. And then we just change these. And this needs to be P enemy hover. So this is just the exact same script we was running before, except we just changed it to enemy. It does the exact same thing, obviously, but instead we're just gonna hover over the enemy instead. That's what's happening. It's the exact same thing, but for the enemy. Okay, so if this is right, this should now outline it. So first of all, let's just go back to parent enemy. And I've realised that these here, because we want it to be a red outline, so we're going to have to change the colour, because this is the is hovered bit. So let's change it to see red, like that. Okay, so yeah, let's just see how that looks so far. I think this should be alright. Alright, yeah, so as you can see, we can hover over her. Now we need to be able to select her. Now when we select ourselves, obviously we have this hovering stuff. But when we select an enemy, we won't do that. We'll just have it stay like with an outline of red, something like that. I think that's probably a bit better for this, I think, because we don't want to make it look like we can then move this object, right? We just want to make it look like it's highlighted. So yeah, let's do that. So I think the way that we want to go about this is in script player 10. Let's have a look at this. So oops, when we left click, okay. So let's have a new if statement up here. This needs to turn into else if, right? We can then copy this like that. Now I think this is going to work. I actually don't know, but we'll just see what happens. We need this script to run. But obviously we need to make that enemy. So let's then dupe this script. Rename. Oops. Yep. Select. So. Oops. What am I doing? Selected enemy. Like that. And now let's just add the E at the end, like we did before. Change this to parent enemy instead. Yep. And this needs to be P enemy like that. E, and lastly E. In fact, is that the right way around? Let me just see. I'm getting myself real confused now. Yeah, it is. Okay. Alright, good. So we'll just say that so it's going to get the top enemy selected, that's fine. And actually that should just work. That should actually just be okay. So, and then it will just say, so if we click on the enemy, then we'll obviously get their stats and stuff, like they'll be selected. Whereas if we click on a player, they'll become this player selected. Else, I feel like we just need to set P enemy selected is no one. So if we just click on nothing, then we'll make that selected as no one as well. So there's no enemy selected at that point. So yeah, let's just give that a look. Let's see if that's actually worked. And it actually hasn't worked. So let's see why that might be the case. That's why that's not worked. So instead of this, because again we're looking for a parent player, we should actually be looking for the parent enemy there. So now let's see if that's worked. So if we click her, she should stay highlighted. Yes, she does, except she shouldn't be black, it should stay red. So let's change the colour. So yeah, just all of these want to be sea red. Okay, so what we need to do now then is we need to go to Object Control. We need the draw event. And now we need to do this. Copy and paste these like this. Just pop that down here. And now we need to go with P enemy hover and P enemy selected like that. And we're just going to have to do the same thing for all the variables here. And there we go. So obviously what we're doing is we just want to write the enemy stats as well, except we need to copy this, the draw set HLAN, and we're just going to put here, we're going to make it right aligned instead. Okay? And then we're going to say room width -10 and also room width -10. So now, in theory, the enemy stats should be on the screen as well. So let's check that out. Let's see, still works on ours, and oops. I've bugged it up. I see what I've done. Alright, so my bad. This also needed to be room width -10 as well. Oops, my bad. Okay, let's see it now. And yeah, there we go. Now we can like compare stats and stuff, which I think is pretty good, and we can get rid of them by just clicking on the floor. Okay, let's have a look. And maybe what we can do next episode is have a situation where when it's like legal for us to attack the enemy, we can maybe have like an indicator here that says, you know, like what the outcome will be. So it might be like, you know, enemy will end up with this amount of health, and you might end up with this amount of health. Like, we'll have like a little predictor in the middle of something like that if we can. Right, so I hope you enjoyed the video, guys, and I promise you, in the next one we will get onto attacking, finally. Okay? So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Hey guys, Lost here. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you're new and want more content like this, and please give me your thoughts down below in the comments. Catch you guys later.